Our Lord in today's gospel reading addresses the inclination that we all have, and that inclination is to pride. We all give in to pride in one way or another. Spiritual authors point out that when we root out pride in one area, it tends to pop up in another, and sometimes without our even realizing it. So our Lord addresses the issue of pride, but he also addresses the importance of humility, striving to be humble. And humility is not the most important virtue or the greatest of virtues. The greatest virtue, of course, is charity. But humility is the most essential of the virtues. Because without humility, we cannot build or develop the other virtues. So we must be humble. And first and foremost, we need to humble ourselves before God. We need to acknowledge our sinfulness, our shortcomings, our dependence upon God. And secondly, we need to humble ourselves before our neighbor. And sometimes this is where we tend to have trouble, because our tendency is to look down upon our neighbor. Now, our Lord gives us this parable, being invited to a certain feast, a wedding banquet, and, taking the highest place of honor, seating yourself there. That wouldn't happen in modern times. Why? Because usually they designate where people are going to sit, right? But there are other ways in which we commit that very same sin of placing ourselves above others. How? When we tend to look down upon others. We might think we're holier than others or commit less sins than others, so sometimes we look down on sinners. We're kind of exalting ourselves above them. But the reality is that if it wasn't for the grace of God, we're capable of doing the very same things that they are doing, committing the same sins. St. Philip Neri, whenever he saw a public sinner, someone that everybody knew was a great sinner, he would point to the person and say, "There go I, but for the grace of God." In other words, in his humility, he acknowledged that he's capable of being the same way, but it's just the grace of God that prevents him from being that way. So we tend to look down upon others for that reason, number one. But also sometimes we consider ourselves more knowledgeable than someone else, and so we look down upon others. So certain topics we might know a lot about, and somebody who doesn't know, we just kind of dismiss them. Or sometimes we're more intelligent or educated than others. Sometimes we have we're better able to speak well than others, to use big fancy words, right? Kind of showing off that we're very educated. So when someone's less educated, we tend to look down upon them. Sometimes it's because of the type of job people have. Oh, I have a good job, right? And they look down upon other people who have, a much more lower kind of class of job, we might say. Or also wealth, right? Somebody has more wealth, they look down upon others who are poor. And we also tend to look down upon people when they are less presentable. So somebody might pride themselves on how they dress or how they look, right? Somebody might be better looking than others, and somebody who's not so good looking or not so well dressed, we look down upon them. Some people may take pride in certain talents, like their ability to sing or to tell jokes or to dance or whatever it may be. So we take pride in these and many, many other things, but when we consider these things that I just listed off, the fact that we may exceed in some of these things, how does that benefit towards our eternal salvation? In other words, is God going to judge us based on how good looking we are, or how well we dress, or how well we dance, or how much knowledge we have, or how intelligent we are? Is that what we're going to be judged on? Is that what's going to determine our level of glory in heaven, or enable us to make it to heaven? No. None of those things matter. The one thing that matters, the most important thing that matters, is our level of charity. And in order to have true charity, we must be humble. We must see our neighbor not just as ourselves, but as greater than ourselves, as more worthy than ourselves, so much so that we are willing to give of our time, of our resources, of our energy, of our talents, to be at the service of our neighbor. So having these talents, whatever it may be, intelligence or knowledge, we need to put those talents to use in the service of others. So you might like dancing and you might want to entertain or please people by your dancing. Well, that would be an act of charity. So we can utilize these things for charitable means and purposes. But it's important that we realize this, and it's important that we focus on practicing charity and looking for those opportunities to practice charity, especially towards those people, for some reason, we have an aversion to them. We need to question, why do I have an aversion to this person? Maybe it's because of the way they look. Maybe it's the way they talk, right? We're judging them. We're putting them below ourselves. Oh, they're not worthy of our time. That tends to be our attitude sometimes. So we really need to look at that. And, this parable that our Lord gives, or this, when someone puts themselves in a high position, they get humbled. They're humiliated. And you've probably heard the saying, pride leadeth before a fall. So usually when we are proud, we make fools of ourselves. We say something stupid, we do something stupid, we embarrass ourselves, and that's actually good for us. And some people say, I know some people who are very proud and they're just full of themselves and, nothing bad seems to happen to them. Well, it's just a matter of time. Eventually it will, even if it's at the end of their life when they end up in hell and humiliated and below everyone else who makes it to heaven. So it's just a matter of time. If we are humiliated now, that's a blessing, because it reminds us to overcome our pride. It reminds us of the need to be humble and the need to acknowledge that we are fools. If it's not for the grace of God, we are capable of the most foolish things. Just a reminder, today after Mass, we will be going to Pine Hill Cemetery. Somebody pointed out that it's raining. It doesn't matter. I'm still planning to go. We are carpooling. So basically after Mass, I'm just going to change and we will, I guess, meet in the foyer. If there's people who can drive, it would be great if you could volunteer your services and be of service to those who want to accompany us. And when we drive to Pine Hill Cemetery, when you drive in to the main, through the main driveway, to the right, there's the office area, and there's a large parking lot there. So we're going to meet there, and once there, we'll just walk around, pray the rosary, and then I have to return. I have some appointments. This evening, after the 5 p.m. Mass, I will be going to Eglinton Town Center Cinema to watch the movie After Death, which I highly recommend. If you want to join us, we're not carpooling, but you need to meet us there. The showtime is 7 p.m., so it's a fantastic movie. It's about near-death experiences. It's a documentary, so it might be kind of slow-moving, I don't know, but very, very interesting. And the way somebody promoted it is science meets religion. Basically, scientifically, they can verify that near-death experiences are real. They're not just a person's brain playing tricks on them, but they are real. The person's soul really leaves their body. So there is life after death. It confirms the reality of heaven and hell, as well as the existence of God. All those things that we believe, and so science supports what we believe. So I strongly encourage you to watch it. It can strengthen your faith, but if you watch it, you'll be more likely to promote the movie for others. And by going to the theater, we're also supporting it, and hopefully they'll keep it in the theaters longer so that more people watch the movie and hopefully turn back to God.